Welcome to the show. I'm Dan Thomas, joined by Shaka Hislop, Ali Moreno, Stuart Robson and Craig Burley as we reflect on 3 matches today in the World Cup. We'll start with Brazil and that 2-0 victory over Costa Rica. If you didn't see the match, maybe you think, Robbo, 2-0, this was comfortable.
It was a clear path by Tite in understanding that a manager can make a difference in a positive way in a game, that you can impact what the team does on the field. The same way that we mentioned Sampaoli, we thought, what is this guy doing? You can see that Tite has a plan. Because when the team he's brave enough to say, right at half player, you say, you know what? It's also good to have those options coming off the bench. Douglas Costa comes in, makes a difference. And then as he got later into the game, he puts in Firmino, a second striker, just kind of playing underneath Gabriel Jesus. And the first goal comes from where? Comes from Firmino winning a ball inside the 18-yard box, continue following in the play. It just gives you a sense that a team that is going to win this tournament has to have not only a plan in place from the coach, not only talent on the field, but you also have to have options off the bench, and Brazil has all of that.
An embarrassment of riches. Almost.
Always on the move. Movement is clever, and it allows space for players to run in behind and move off. Jesus is a different type of player, and maybe that's something we'll see. But there's never easy games at this, but I would have been shocked if Brazil not got the 3 points.
But after 90 minutes, it was 0-0, Shaq.
Yeah, it was. And in fairness, I think Tite played a huge part in exactly how this game did finish up. At the same time, if you're looking at this from a Costa Rica point of view, I've been a little bit disappointed in Gabriel Jesus so far this tournament. But then you have Neymar drifting out to the left-hand side. You know he wants to get on the ball. You foul him out there. That's no real hazard at all. I think the game and Neymar's performance also turned on that reverse of the penalty call, where quite clearly from then on in, angry Neymar is a whole lot better than I'm a victim Neymar. And you saw Brazil and his performance improve, and that was a big turning point and the difference between a point and 3.
They have great rotation down the left hand. So you were talking about Willian. Willian has to give width out on that right hand. He was stuck out on the right hand side. That's same with Douglas Costa when he went out there. But there was good movement down that left hand side. Marcelo coming forward. Coutinho goes out there. Neymar can then drift in field. It's a great
What did you
rotation.
make of Neymar? We talked about him a lot over the last few days.
He played better. He made better decisions. It wasn't all about him. He passed the ball off and then tried to get higher up the field. He still did things that frustrate you. He went down far too easily. He lost possession far too easily. And the thing that would worry me, they're 1-0 up. He gets the ball in the corner. He tries to flick over somebody's head when they could just keep the ball in the corner. So it's all again about him in that last minute. We're now winning the game. I haven't had a penalty given to me. I'm going to flick it over the defender's head and try and get the other side. They lost possession. The ball could have gone up the other end. Fortunately for them, it didn't. But that's the sort of things you get frustrated with him about.
Well, maybe so. But the other way to look at that is the fact that Neymar is willing to do those things when 1-0, and that's part of his game. And so it's also part of his genius. And so you sort of have to live with that and say, okay, if that's the version of Neymar that we're going to get, but then he's also going to score goals from us, you live with that if you're Brazil. Because that part of Neymar's game, it also, I think, in some ways, pushes him to a different level entirely. You see then a confident Neymar is the sort of player that you want Brazil to have on the final third, because you know he can change the game for you.
You want him 1v1 in that final third, going into the penalty box, taking people on, getting his shot away, rather than doing the tricks out in the wide area. That's where he's going to be his most. That's where he's going to match the Messis and the Ronaldos if he wants to be one of the best players in the world, where he's doing it constantly in the attacking third of the field.
I was going to say, there is a player who really should be still in the headlines from Neymar, but he's kind of not because of Neymar's antics, both from the first game and in the training leading up to this game, and with what we're going to talk about in a bit at the end of the game, is Philippe Coutinho. Philippe Coutinho, that wonder goal in the first game against Switzerland, and then the important one that broke the deadlock in this game today, before Neymar gets the second. So Phil Coutinho at the moment is as important for Brazil with his goal-scoring prowess as Neymar or anybody else.
And also, when they took Paulinho off, so they had to change, and you're talking about Tite changing the way they were going to play, it meant that Coutinho could go that little bit deeper and dictate the play. So they still had a way of changing it by getting still attacking players on the field, but Coutinho could still go into that central midfield area.
That's the other thing, by the way. You're talking about all the names that rotate, and it's all-stars. It's superstars everywhere. So we're talking about, well, we'll take Paulinho off, we put in Firmino. We rotate Douglas Costa, we take Willian off, and this is what... It's just a team that has talent everywhere. And if they continue to improve, as they have so far, this team, I just don't see anybody else on their best day beating Brazil.
The great thing is they can still go out.
Well,
I don't mean that's great. Wow.
Whoa, that's a statement.
No, I mean, look, we got Croatia on 6 points through. We got France, who have played pretty poorly, already through. Here we've got Brazil, who are now going to go into the last game against Serbia with a potential.
So obviously, if Serbia beat Brazil and Switzerland don't lose against Costa Rica, then it will be Serbia and Switzerland going through Brazil.
I mean, this
has got you very excited, Craig.
No, I hate dead rubbers in the last game. I hate dead rubbers. So, as bad as the result was for Serbia today, they've got something to play for. Okay, it's arguably the best team in the tournament they're going to be playing against. But if Switzerland can dig in to get a result, maybe Serbia can if they can improve their defence. They've got more talented players than Switzerland going forward. It is an unlikely scenario, but it is a scenario, and I think that makes the competition interesting.
I just want to go back to Neymar because, of course, that goal means now he's the third all-time top goal scorer in the Brazilian national team's history. Above him, not bad, is it? Pelé and Ronaldo. But it is emotional outbursts after the game, in tears, on the pitch, after scoring that goal, after the full-time whistle. Went on Instagram, didn't he, say that it was just the emotional outpouring. You know, it's not been easy for me.
Okay, I know and I recognize this is going to be a largely unpopular position on this panel, knowing the people that I have working with me. I don't mind it.
Right.
I don't mind the emotion coming out because if I'm standing in that locker room and Neymar crying means that he's letting go of everything that has come into this tournament, of all the pressure, of all the things that he has created for himself, and that means that I'm going to get a better version of Neymar going forward, I'm all for it.
I'm going to turn left now.
Oh, I think Robbo's equally as cynical as me. I mean, if Serbia beat them, there'll be a tidal wave of tears.
But these crocodile tears...
They've just beaten Costa Rica, for God's sake.
But he's been under so much pressure.
Well, he puts himself under so much pressure by his antics and the thing. But I don't mind him crying and doing all that stuff and going on Instagram as long as he performs out on the field and does the right things out on the field.
Instagram is a weird word to come out.
Yeah, it doesn't go anywhere near viral and things like that.
He doesn't know what it is. Yeah. He's just heard the word. He's heard the word Instagram. Look, I mean, come on. This is the me scenario. I understand. Every Brazilian that is pulled on the jersey, the real top ones, whether it be back in the day when it was Zico and Socrates, or whether it was Pelé before them, the list goes on where it's Romario and Ronaldo, they've all been under the most immense pressure. It's what makes them special.
Like he's not.
Don't start crying about it after beating Costa Rica.
It doesn't matter.
He's not the only player this tournament who's under pressure. There are a lot more players, well, a couple more players under a whole lot more pressure. Yes, I do. I haven't. I feel as well. If he feels to cry, he feels to cry. That's up to him. I just find it disingenuous. The last time he was in tears, similarly, was in a press conference when Tite was defending him. I don't understand how you go from winning a game at the World Cup to breaking down in tears.
It's just relief.
Yeah, it's an emotional letdown. It's just letting everything go.
Because Brazil beat Costa Rica in the second game of the World Cup.
No, help me. I mean, look, people are different and react different to... I wouldn't be doing it, but to be quite honest, looking from the outside in, I'd much rather see some sort of emotion than see nothing.
So what are we to expect if they beat Serbia? What are we to expect next round? Is this going to continue?
No, but this is kind of the relief of everything that's gone on, isn't it? Now it's kicking on from here.
What has gone on? What has gone on?
I'm sitting here going, Neymar's rubbish, look at his horrible hair.
What has gone on that he hasn't brought on himself?
Well, that's fair. He has brought a lot of this on himself. That's fair. But I do think there is some relief. There is some sense of, you know what? There was a game that we thought we were not going to get the 3 points. We got a late goal. I scored a late goal. And now, all of a sudden, my World Cup takes a different turn than what it was before.
Well, then go in the dressing room and cry.
Well, okay.
No need to sit in the middle of the pitch and make it about you either. Again, bringing it on himself.
Okay, let's just take a look at the Group E odds. The teams to qualify.
No feelings around here.
Switzerland 66-1 on to advance. Brazil big favourites as well, 14-1. Switzerland, of course, have put themselves in that position after coming from behind to beat Serbia 2-1.
I can't see Serbia beating Brazil. I mean, the only way of scoring I can see is getting the ball into wide areas, getting crosses into the box. I'm not sure they're going to be able to play with two up front against Brazil. I think Milinkovic-Savic will have to go deeper, as he did in the second half of this game, so it leaves Mitrovic up front.
What did you make of Switzerland?
I thought Switzerland, first half, were poor. I think Serbia were the better side, but in the second half, Shaqiri played sort of almost on the counter-attack. He just didn't recover. He got himself into a position. As soon as they won the ball back, they got it to him. They got a lucky lifeline with a great strike from Xhaka, and from that moment on, they grew in confidence, and it was a bad decision by the centre-back for Serbia to try and play offside, and let Shaqiri go in.
You've got two things. When Xhaka equalised, you got Branislav Ivanovic almost lying on the ground. Comes out with the usual scenario with the arms behind the back, not to give a penalty away, and then sort of falls over. As good a strike as it was, you've got to make yourself as big. You've got to take one for the team. It hits you in the face, it hits you in the chest, it hits you. He lay down, and then as Rob rightly mentioned, nobody wants to go with runners these days. Everybody wants to step up for offside. Crazy decision, and that's what cost them.
But Serbia can feel aggrieved, can't they, Shaq? Because, you know, we've been nice to VAR. VAR's done brilliantly so far, but really there should have been a review, shouldn't they, for that penalty call?
On Mitrovic, absolutely. It was a blown call. The referee gives it because it's the easier of the two decisions. Players tussling in the box. It's almost easier to give it to the defender than it is to point to the penalty spot. But you've got VAR at your disposal. And that should have been overturned. We saw the replays, and without question, that should have been a penalty. And given how good Serbia were, at that point, I thought they started well and then dropped back on their heels. They get a goal there. I'm not sure that they give up a second. Maybe they go...
I get the feeling that when those two Swiss players wrestled Mitrovic to the ground, at that point, in the VAR control room, the cheeseburger and fries had just been delivered.
All right.
And the VAR guy, they just went like, nothing to see here.
I mean, literally, Fabian Schär was in this position, okay? The ball's coming from this way, this is what he was doing. I mean, if that's...
I'm glad I'm not sitting over there.
I mean, come on. Hey, you like a hug.
Well, I'm not going to cry. That's when something like this happens, and people will say, well, that's subjective. When an incident like that happens, I think generally we're quite balanced with stuff like that. That you wonder what these people are watching.
Yeah.
You wonder if they sit and the replays roll in, 2, 3, 4 replays as quick as they come, and you can see the two guys wrestling. You just wonder then, what is this human being who is a FIFA referee? What are they looking at?
Well, obviously, they're having their cheeseburger and fries.
Well, that's exactly right.
Meanwhile, we saw the other game in Group D today. Nigeria doing all Argentina fans a big favour by beating Iceland by 2-0, which opened things up completely now, doesn't it? Because if Argentina beat Nigeria and Iceland fail to beat Croatia, then it'll be Croatia and Argentina that'll be going through. Before we talk about what could happen in that group, let's talk about the game a little bit, Robbo.
Nigeria, for the first half, I thought were awful.
They didn't have a shot on target, did they?
Didn't have a shot on target. They couldn't find a way of getting the ball into their front play in Nacho and Musa. I thought Iceland got to every knockdown. They were getting balls into the box. Iceland were the better team without creating a really good chance, but they were the better side. But in the second half, when they scored a goal on the counter-attack, and from that moment on, Musa was a real problem for them. Yeah. He's paced down the side of the defenders. It meant that Iceland had to push their fullbacks higher up the field. Musa could then run again down the side, and what a good second goal it was. In the end, the second half performance just about deserved it.
It must have been a strange feeling for Iceland going into halftime and looking at each other saying, we are the one that have the ball. We're passing the ball around. We are the one creating those opportunities. And somehow we have to be comfortable. I just don't think that Iceland is comfortable doing that. I think they're far more comfortable being the team that sits back. And now Nigeria is doing what Iceland usually do. And it's no surprise. Early on in the second half, counter-attack goal. Then later on in the second half, counter-attack goal. Nigeria deserved it in the end, and Iceland now is in trouble.
Now then. So Croatia are done. They are fine. They are through to the next round. Argentina, Nigeria and Iceland with all possibilities to advance. Argentina favourites, Shaka. Who's going through?
What?
Nigeria. I think as we sit right now, as these respective teams are in their hotels, the Argentina players are looking at each other, pointing fingers and trying to find somebody to blame. And the exact opposite is true in Nigeria. They're excited. They're looking forward to the next game. I think Nigeria go into this in a better frame of mind. They found their stride. They get the result. They go through.
To your point, and I do think that people are pointing the finger at Argentina, but they're usually pointing the finger at Jorge Sampaoli. If Argentina is able to get rid of Jorge Sampaoli, that may just bring the team together. And if that's the case, Argentina beats Nigeria.
I think Argentina will just about pull it together. I don't think Nigeria are a particularly good side. So I think
Croatia are going to make changes. The coach has said it. Yep. Iceland beat them in the qualifying campaign. That could happen. It might not matter what happens for Argentina.